It's really nice to hear from you.
Excellent, George. You were brought up this video of you back in the day hitting the bag with your hooks, and I just had to ask you, do you ever hit the bag anymore?
You know I do. I keep a little punching bag in my home, and for the sole purpose of burning calories now. Nothing like burning up anybody, just burning calories. Well, working out, boxing is a great workout, but there's nothing that, that I get intense like I had in my older day. But every now and then I'll shadow box just for a little fun. Beating the air, I call it. And it's simple and not that much, though.
All right, so I'm going to start this with, so you shared the ring with Frazier twice, Norton, Ali, and then the second part of your career you had Moore, Holyfield, and Briggs, and it leads to my question now of the modern day heavyweight. Do any of those guys scare you?
Well, I have no fear of them because I don't have to fight them anymore. They are good fighters. Anthony Joshua and Klitschko, these are real good fighters. They could have existed in any era, so I have a lot of respect for them. You know what? It's pretty much the same. You got to start from the bottom and work your way up. If you don't do that, there is no success. So basically, and you got to fight. You got to take a lot of punches. You got to get up and act as though it didn't hurt. Same thing I did in the amateurs, I did in the pros, and then as a businessman.
And, modern day now, what sort of things are you still putting yourself in those scenarios? How are you testing yourself each day?
I still work out, and of course I pay attention to my diet like I'm a soldier of some sort. So I'm always in the mix as far as being physically fit. Because I like to present myself. I like to wear a lot of clothes. But there's always the challenge of getting up in the morning and being prepared to do something new. I like that idea. Well, I was actually stablemates with Sonny Liston. My manager, Dick Sadler, was also Sonny Liston's manager. And the wonderful thing is I could get in there and spar with Sonny Liston, and it boosted my confidence like nothing. Because after a while, I could really handle myself with him. Not at first, but he was no doubt the toughest man I'd ever been in the ring with. He never took one step backwards from me. I had to box him.
George, and could you share some insight? Because as our show's evolving and we're chatting with legends like yourself, Larry Holmes was in the Ali sparring partner. Holyfield sparred with Tyson. You just mentioned Sonny Liston. Is this something that still goes on today in modern boxing?
I have no idea because I was basically not in Liston's camp. I had won an Olympic gold medal, and I chose Dick Sadler to be my manager. And he was at the same time managing and training Sonny Liston, and it helped me out because I could introduce his shows, and of course I sparred with him, and I learned how to behave myself with the media and that thing by way of the association with Sonny Liston. I don't know whether it would work today or not. Muhammad Ali, of course, was the most renowned person. I'd be walking home from high school, and all the kids were boasting about this man making jokes. He even had music, and he had poems. And so he was the first one I'd seen on television, and everybody loved seeing him on television, the same as I did. I liked him. I became a boxer. He was already in exile, so I didn't have much exposure to him then. Of course, when it was time for me to box him, I even didn't dislike him then. But after I lost the title to him, did I hate him. Took my title.
Do you still feel that energy when that rumble in the jungle?
I'll never forget that moment. I'll never forget the moment of the rumble in the jungle. I thought I had it won. Then I lost the fight. And of course, you lose something like that, you never really, the moment never goes out of your mind because you think, if I had done this, if I had done that. Then I fought Michael Moore for the title almost 20 years later, and all of this skeletons started to disappear.
Yeah.
I can actually live with I had lost my championship 20 years earlier.
Yeah, George, Tristan and I are both strength coaches down here in Sydney, and your physique, man, your whole career, what sort of training was going on back then? Were you doing all weights? Share with us some little insights on that.
Well, I didn't do any weights until I came back. I made a comeback into boxing, and I started dealing with weights to rehab. If I'd hurt myself, I found that the weightlifting in different areas would help strengthen it and rehabilitate you. So that was all I used the weightlifting was for rehabilitation. But the first career, I didn't touch weightlifting at all. It was about chopping wood with the axe, digging holes in the ground, carrying a wheelbarrow filled with gravel, all those things, manual labor. I had as many fans in Africa as Muhammad did.
Yeah.
He was, of course, loved and admired all over the world, but believe me, that place had a lot of George Foreman fans, and there was a lot of betting going on, and the betting favored me. So there were a lot of angry Africans when I left because they lost their money. Oh, you soft. Nobody want to lose a fight. No one want to lose a fight. I was upset. I was upset about it. And I sat there and, you reminisce of what could have been done, but I was more than anything else. I was so tired. I thought, man, I'm champion of the world. I got to do this. Champion of the world. I got to do that. And so I didn't like that part of it. Then after I lost the championship of the world, I realized how much I truly loved being champion and how precious it was and how horrible it was to lose that title. You only know that once you've had it and lost it.
George, I grew up in Northeast Ohio, and in the early 90s, you had the sitcom on TV. I always wanted to ask you, were you freestyling your lines, or were they actually like scripted and you had to rehearse those lines?
I think that was the big trouble. I didn't follow directions.
Yes. What was that like?
I had a lot of fun with it, and they were just letting me be myself.
I remember the show. Like, was that ever a plan of yours as a young boy to become like, you're an icon, and then you were famous on TV for multiple different careers. Was that ever a plan of yours as a young boy?
I was doing some commercials once, and I was getting ready to fight Jerry Cooney. And I got a telephone call in that night. And someone said, "Hey, George," and I said, "Who is this?" In my room, hotel room in Atlantic City. It was Bill Cosby. And we talked for a long time, and I was happy to hear from him. At that time, he was one of the most recognizable figures around with his TV show.
Yeah.
And I said, "Hey, Bill, people are calling me to do these commercials and things like that. What do you think?" "I don't know if I should." He said, "Listen, George, every young boy dreams of being on television, seeing his face on the screen. Don't act like you're any different. Enjoy your moment." He said, "I'll do the commercials if you don't want." And from that point on, I took off, and I really understood as a boy, I really wanted to be on television like any other boy. Well, the most important thing, the point you want to get out to all kids, that starting from the bottom is not a curse. Everybody can be given a chance if they want a chance, but there's so much work involved. There's so many ups and downs. People say, "George, you had a great career." No one realized that I was knocked down in one of my boxing matches. Most embarrassing moment. When I first started, I wanted to say I quit. And I did quit a few times. But there's nothing wrong with the struggle of trying to work your way up. And I teach young people that.
What was the biggest difference because you took what? Wasn't it 10 years off?
There was 10 years I not so much as made a fist. I didn't box, I didn't shadow box, As a matter of fact, I didn't even like being thought of as an ex-boxer. I was a preacher.
Yeah. And so you mentioned the money drove you back, and you were broke. When you came back after that 10 years, what was the biggest thing that the body was a little bit older? How about your style? Did you go in there knowing that you had to change up your style?
I did have to change the style. I left out of boxing. My hands were quick, not only just in delivering punches. And to deliver a knockout punch, you have to be strong, but it has to be faster than the guy can cover up. When I came back, I would parry punches in my first career, stop them before they get started. When I came back, I couldn't do it. The parrying. And so I had to learn a new style to put my hand in position, keep them in position so I wouldn't get hit. And that was trying to me. I had to learn to box again. And it would always happen by coincidence, because sometimes I'd be throwing a volley of punches. And that one hit out of that 8 punches, and I knew that would be it. I knew that. But as I got older, I started to calculate a little better, and I would only throw those punches that I knew were going to be the last one. Yeah, I'd never been hit so hard that I didn't feel anything. It was like, boom, and I was like, what am I doing on the canvas? How did this happen? And your legs do not obey you. That's a frightening, hard punch to be hit with. Ron Lyles did it in the 70s. I think deep down we were always best friends, because I admired him. And Muhammad Ali had come back into boxing. He saw my rise to prominence as well. And we all knew we had so much in common, but because we were in this sport of being one camp to the other, we separated ourselves. But after boxing, a couple of times he'd call me up on the telephone asking me. Once, when I just left boxing, he begged me to come back to boxing so I could beat Ken Norton for him. He was honest with me. He said, George, they're going to make me fight Norton, or they're going to take my title. He said, and George, I can't beat him, but you can. He's afraid of you. He said, come back, George, and I'll give you a shot, but don't let them. They're going to take it and give it to Norton. And from that point on, we were friends. We talked all the time. But I told him now I would never come back to boxing. And it was 10 years later that I did come back.
George, are there any stories floating around? Like, was there ever a moment when it hit you in your career when you're like, holy crap, like, I'm famous, and you found yourself around, maybe celebrities? Could you share a story with us?
Let's see. I just won a gold medal, and I was called by this William Barris production to come to Hollywood. They had at that time a real famous show called The Dating Game.
Yep.
And they asked me to be on as one of the contestants. And I sat there in the audience and I realized, man, I'm a celebrity. I'm on television. I never got over that one moment. Never. That was tops. And that was enough to make me think I was truly a celebrity. I didn't win, but I was a winner. I was a winner just by being there. I was so cool. Everybody saw me on that thing, and boy, did I get girlfriends.
Yeah, I bet.
I was no longer watching celebrities. I started looking in the mirror and seeing one in myself.
How much of that mindset, how important, though, that self-belief, George? Like you probably had an understanding that you were meant for greatness. Could you give our fans a little bit of insight on the importance of having that mindset to be successful?
Yeah, success was very important to me. From that point on, after winning that gold medal, I had never had a dream to come true in my life. After that moment, I stood on that platform listening to them playing the national anthem, and I just thought, this is impossible. I'm going to wake up in a minute, and it's going to be a dream. I never woke up to this day. From that point on, I knew that any dream was possible. All I had to do was apply myself and sacrifice. Anything is achievable. Well, you're back there trying to, your manager, especially in my earlier days, my manager, Dick Sadler, would psych me out. This guy's got nothing. He can't take a punch. Got a glass jaw. Doesn't have a jab. And you get out there and knock him out. I was nervous, but when he started that conversation, I was ready to go. But I remember the night, Jamaica, time to fight Joe Frazier. And I've seen that Joe Frazier, the most deadly fighter I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
And he looked at me, Dick Sadler looked at me that night, and he said, I told him, don't even go there. we knew we had the fight of my life on my hand. Don't even start that stuff.
Yeah.
I was nervous. The most nervous and frightened I'd ever been before or after.
I wanted to touch base a little bit about, there's stories floating around the internet about the infancy of the George Foreman grill. You were supposed to go to a business meeting. Hulk Hogan was involved. One thing led to.
That's not true.
Could you share the truth with us?
No, I was really a hit on Madison Avenue. I'd done commercials for Doritos, Meineke, Pepsi Cola, Burger King. McDonald's. I'm sorry. I'd done all these commercials, and a friend said, George, you're doing all these commercials, you're making everybody else wealthy. Why don't you get your own product? And I said, sure. And we started searching for the right product. And finally we found this grill, not in its present form, of course. And they convinced me, look, let's form this joint venture. I'd sign my name to it. I'd get the lion's share of the product, and I would promote it when I didn't have anything else to do. That's how the grill came about. Started off a few here, a few there, and eventually sold over 120 million.
Yeah,
I sold the grill.
I had the big one in my college campus in my dorm, and I had two little ones too to travel with. So thank you.
Yeah, that thing was just what I needed when I did the deal. All I expected was about 16 grills, one for my aunt, some for my uncles, a couple on my ranch, and one to travel with. I never expected that thing to be so successful. Never.
And George, we use this platform to provide inspiration and insights for our fans. So could you leave a little advice for people listening who maybe are struggling with some adversity right now?
And I tell all my kids this too, that forgiveness is the subtle thread that binds both love and friendship. That if you can forgive everyone who's done something to you, you'll have so many friends. Without it, you may not end up with your mom and dad if you don't forgive.
That's beautiful.